the age of 21, I kind of went on a downward spiral. I got addicted to ecstasy really bad. Was renting out motels for a week at a time to go and do ecstasy. Ended up abandoning my children because of my drug habit. And as a result, my children got taken from me. My third child, his father took him from me and left, and we didn't know where he was at. And then my other 2 children got removed from me and taken into protective custody with CPS. And so at that time, they gave me a case plan to follow to reunify with my children, but I was still in my addiction, still broken, still lost. And so I continued using while they were in protective custody for about almost 2 years, to the point of where there was no longer any time to reunify with them. So finally, at this time, I had got pregnant with my 4th child, and I lived on a ranch, like hidden in the cuts, running from everybody. And when she was born, they took her from me from the hospital because I hadn't reunified with my other 2 children. So at this point, I was put back into contact with CPS, and they told me that I probably didn't even have a fight even for my other children that had already been in protective custody. But it was kind of like, let's make a deal. We'll give you back your newborn and let us have the other 2, because they were already in a foster to adopt home by that time. So I ended up giving a dirty drug test. They gave me 3 more drug tests after that. All those were dirty drug tests. I had no willpower, I had no faith, I had no family, I had no support system. But one day I remember going for the final drug test, and they told me, they said, look, we're not going to sugarcoat this with you. If you don't go into a program, then you're going to lose your kids, and you're only going to see them once a year until they were 18 in a picture. And so I remember, even though I was out of my mind, and I think I was even high when I went there that day, to be honest with you, because I didn't know how to deal with emotions. And so all I wanted to do was numb myself. So I remember getting in contact with the STARS worker in the drug courts, and they told me that there was a program I could go into, and they would help me with all the things I needed to do to complete the case plan. And the house was called the Promise House. And I didn't know it at the time, but it was a faith-based recovery home for women that were fighting to get their kids out of the system, and women that were coming straight out of prison. And so surrendering my will to follow a program was definitely not something I was willing to do, but I had no choice. So in that, I was taught discipline. And I was forced to go to a parenting program where they taught me how to be a parent, basic skills that I was too rebellious to take away from anybody that tried to teach me anything. Every day at noon, we would eat lunch, and then we would go to a church in downtown Sacramento called Clooney. And I remember them, preaching about God, but I really didn't absorb too much. I think the very next week after, I went to a court hearing where they told me that at the very next court hearing, they were going to terminate my rights from my 2 oldest children. And so I completely lost it. And it was like my whole life flashed before my eyes, and I just started panicking. My palms were sweaty. It finally registered the damage that I had done. And I was just so broken. So that night, I remember I was completely just in a whole nother world. Everything was so surreal to me, and I went to bed that night, and I just cried out, and I was like, God, if you're real, the Jesus that they told me about when I was little and that they keep talking about in church, if you're real, I need you to show me that you're real. I need your help. I really need to know that somebody can fix this, because I can't fix this.
Draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded.
And so I had a dream that night. I cried myself to sleep, but I had a dream that night. And I was walking with a man with a white robe on, and all I could see was his feet. And I could hear his voice, and his voice was so loud. And he just told me that if I would serve him, and if I would give all my pain to him, that he would make me new, and he would give me back everything the devil tried to take from me. And so I woke up, and even though it was a dream, I knew what I heard and what I felt. And I cried out to God, and then he gave me this dream, right? Like I knew he was real.
But God hath revealed them unto us by his Spirit. For the Spirit searcheth all things, yea, the deep things of God.
And the very next week I went to court, and I was standing there, and a lady came behind me, and I can't even remember. I just remember she was an African-American lady. She was standing on the side of me, like out of my peripheral vision, you know what I'm saying? Like out of the side of my eye, but I didn't have like direct eye contact with her. And she told me that they want me to get a bonding assessment, and that's what how I'm gonna get my kids back. And so I turned around to ask the lady more questions, and she was gone. The family courthouse, the corridor is very, very long. And where I was at was like the end court. And you at least have to walk a few seconds to the next court, right? And she didn't go in the door because I had a vision of the door. So she just disappeared.
For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways.
I went into the court, and mind you, this is the day I'm supposed to have my rights terminated. And when I went in there, I told my public defender about the bonding assessment. She had no clue what that was. So she went in and told the judge, and the judge kind of had to take a minute and kind of look through things. And it was like, yeah, you know, by law, before we terminate her rights, this is a loophole, you know, that she can have a bonding assessment. My time with my children was increased because by law they have to increase that time. And so I was able to see my kids more and bond with them more. And then we finally had the date of the bonding assessment. And what that is they bring my kids into a counseling office supervised by a counselor. And they have my children interact with the foster home mom who's tentatively going to adopt them. And so they brought them in with her, and they had like a meal, and they played games, and the person just watched and reported how they bonded. And then after she left, then they brought me into the same room, same situation with my kids to see how we bonded. And so as soon as I got in there, my kids just automatically ran to me and were latched onto me, and, you know, just so happened. I think that there was even like McDonald's that had got brought, and my kids and I hadn't had a meal together in like 2 years. So that was really special. And then I remember my daughter was like in the front of me holding onto my neck, and my son was in the back holding my neck, and like they didn't want to let go. So we had to have the court hearing to deem what the results were from the bonding assessment. And so that kept getting continued and continued and continued. And I believe that was the grace of God, because by the time they finally had that court date, my time was up. I had completed my residential treatment. I had completed drug court. I completed parenting classes. I found favor with the court system. I found favor with even the FOS to adopt, the place we would have our supervised visits for the adoption unit. And these people all wrote reports, even though they were the ones that were set up to try to remove my kids from me, and they would report how, you know, that my kids were bonded to me. So at the last court date, the judge said, you are the 1%. You are the 1% that's going home with your kids today. The bonding assessment deemed that it was detrimental to my kids to remove them from me. So I believe that that was the miracle from God I asked him for. And then right after that, we got connected to the body of believers. I got connected to the church. I got baptized. My son got baptized with me. I began serving in the church, and my family and I, we are sold out to Jesus. We've seen God show up and show out in so many different seasons and situations. And for those of you that are watching, no matter what impossible situation you may be facing, no matter what the circumstances, the doctor report says, our God is able. So just believe that he is who he says he is, and that he can do what only he could do.